Okay, I've got my basket warped up here. There just happens to be 9 here. So I thought that would be a good setup for a 9 patch. I could have 3 sections of 3. But really it's not necessary to plan that. And it's not necessarily necessary for it to be even either. And I've got a crochet cotton warp here. You know, I have a lot of old thread. You got to watch that because sometimes cotton can get weak when it's older. So if you're buying vintage crochet cotton, you really have to be careful to either, especially inquire as to whether it's degraded at all. This is a number 10, I guess, which is kind of a medium size. You know, cotton comes in all sizes. You can use tatting, crochet cotton, or even fine cotton thread if you're using a cotton warp. But again, you got to be careful if it's old. This seems like a good size. I'm using a wool this time. It's a fairly thick wool. It's like tapestry wool, they call it. I usually use stuff that's much finer, but to show process, I think I'll use the thicker. And you know, to start, I simply knot the thread around the first warp yarn that I'm going to weave on. And I like to leave the ends long enough so that if I want to weave them back in or do anything with them later, I'll be able to grab on with them. Sometimes I don't remember to do that, but it's a good habit. So you can just pull that to the back and leave it hanging. And I don't really concern myself most of the time with what's hanging on the back. It could be a lot of threads, actually. And so you just don't pay attention to it. Some people work from the back, but on such a small piece like this, it's really not necessary. Working small actually makes a lot of things that you normally need to do or prepare, or well, you just don't need to do them. And that's why it's so good to start small. You can learn the process without a lot of to-do. Now, since this is spaced out so nicely and I can get my hands in here and the materials are large, I'm simply going to finger weave. And what I do there is just press up the next thread and pull it through. And just watch what I'm doing. I went under this one, so I'm going to go over this one and pick the next one that needs the thread to go under. And this process, one at a time type process, is very much like sewing, one stitch at a time. So you let your thread go over and you just pick up the next under one. And when you get to the other side, you just turn around and you just notice where you are, and you went over this, so you're going to go under this one. Let it go over the next one. Push up on the one that it needs to go under. And this is basic finger weaving. And I like it a lot because you are connected to what you're doing. And doing one thread at a time, you don't really have to worry, again, since this is so small and you're working on such a small scale, one at a time, you don't have to worry about pulling inward or allowing for tension, because first of all, this is so narrow, you probably won't pull it in anyway. And if you go one at a time, you can adjust the tension for each, what I would compare it to, stitch, because it really is like stitching through. So I'm just doing a couple of preparatory rows here, and you can see I'm only using my fingers and nothing else. No needle, no beater, no shedding device, no nothing. It's one at a time. It's slow. But I've already got 4 rows. And then if I want to end this off again, I just go around and knot it. Sort of a half hitch. And I leave it hanging. Really, you don't have to worry about holding it together. As you weave down, it holds together. Later on you can weave these ends in. You can knot them for fringe. You can do all kinds of things. So that's really the start and finish of a color area. In this case, it went all the way across. So again, if I want to add a new color, I will take this, make it long enough, knot it, let it hang down, okay, where are you? There you go. And again I'll start to weave. And I want to pay attention and make sure that I go under where the other one was over.